Please take your seats quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tennis Weekly with Joel and Kim, sponsored by DownloadTennis.com. On today's Tour Catch-Up,
Matteo Berrettini battles to the title in Stuttgart.
Daniil Medvedev gets stunned by Dutch Wildcard.
And Glasgow is announced as host for this year's Billie Jean King Cup finals.
Kim, today is the 12th of June and we are here to catch up on the week in tennis at Tennis Weekly HQ. The grass court season is here. Clay is firmly in the rear window and we've got our first 4 champions of the grass court season 2022. So we've got a lot to talk about as usual. We're going to be looking ahead as well. I've got a path for the courts for you. So it's all very exciting. And perhaps the most exciting thing of all, at least to us anyway, is that we have moved. We have moved offices, or metaphorical offices at the very least, from Passing Shot HQ to Tennis Weekly HQ.
Yeah, just to clarify, we don't have an office space. We record from our bedrooms.
Virtual office.
It's in the cloud. Yeah, we are Tennis Weekly now. This is our first catch up as Tennis Weekly, but nothing else has changed except for our name. We're still very much Joel and Kim. So we hope that you all enjoy and are on board with the rebranding. It's quite exciting. The cat's out the bag now. So yeah, here we go. Tennis Weekly. We did release an episode in the week chatting to John Lloyd about his latest book that's just come out, Dear John, an autobiography all about his life and career. So if you haven't managed to listen to that one yet, that's it was a fantastic chat with John, and yeah, definitely check that one out in the meantime.
Yes, and if you've got any questions about the move, us going to Tennis Weekly, feel free to reach out to us and we're happy to answer them. We've also put a short announcement pod as well, just going into a bit more detail as to why we've done the rebranding, why we felt it was the right time, but also talking about the transition and kind of what it means. For listeners, it means absolutely nothing. Joel and Kim are staying the same. Our formats, our tour catch-ups, our round by rounds, our meets and our book club series, they are all staying the same. It very much is about just changing the name from Passing Shot to Tennis Weekly. So yeah, this is our first ever Tennis Weekly tour catch-up, Kim, and we've got some really exciting champions to talk about and events to talk about because we've had a few surprises. We've had a few famous names as well get to the finals, but let's start in Stuttgart because we had a final take place today between Matteo Berrettini and Andy Murray.
Woo! Cue lots of applause and cheering.
I know. I mean, it's amazing given. I mean, well, I watched him at Surbiton beat Nakashima, but he then went on and lost to Dennis Kudler, who I saw lost in qualies at Queen's today. And yeah, Murray was in the final of a 250 event. So yeah, really, it's amazing, obviously, how your fortunes, I feel, can change in the the tennis world over the space of a week. But he wasn't able to get the job completely done. Berrettini won in 3 sets, 6-4. 5-7, 6-3, and yes, Murray will be pleased about getting to a final because he will return to the top 50 for the first time since 2018, but he will obviously be slightly concerned as well given how that third set played out with the trainer coming on twice, and I feel like the word of death, or the word no Andy Murray fan wants to hear, or phrase anyway, hip trouble.
Yeah, it was the same old issue, I guess, re-emerging. Obviously he plays with a metal hip, and in that third set, it was not the way, that you wanted the match to kind of end, him sort of visibly having trouble. But it's the other side. So the metal hip's on the right, this was the left hip. So obviously just hip issues going on for Andy, and obviously the doubt and the concern is that will he be able to play Queens this coming week? Will he be okay for Wimbledon? The grass courts really are his bread and butter. Playing at home on his favorite surface, and this is sort of the what he wants to peak for in the season. And I mean, he's had a brilliant week, beating, Stefanos Tsitsipas, beating Nick Kyrgios, not dropping a set on the way to the final, and doing really, really well against Berrettini in the final. So we just hope that it's nothing too serious. I mean, we don't really know as of yet, but we just hope that it's not gonna like curtail his grass court season and affect the rest of it. But that will, we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Yeah, because I mean, this caught me a little bit by surprise, if I'm being quite honest, given what happened in Surbiton the week before. He came up against Tsitsipas, the top seed in the quarterfinals, and I thought, that was going to be as good as it got. But then I sort of remembered Tsitsipas on a grass court is not as formidable as him on other court surfaces, like on the clay. And again, Murray, as you said, he is just so at home on the grass court. It really kind of works for his game. He knows what he's doing. He's obviously grown up on it, and he's obviously a multiple Wimbledon champion. And this week, it all really did come together for him. There was no wild card needed to get into the draw. His ranking was high enough for him to get direct entry, and he pulled us some very, very good victories. Tsitsipas, Kyrgios as well in that semi-final. Kyrgios has been playing well, I think. He was playing well, I think, throughout the week. And he gave, a good competitive first set against Murray in the semi before a classic and almost sort of expected capitulation in the second set. But for Murray to get to the final was very, very impressive. He got to the final, obviously, in Sydney at the start of the season. But since then, there's been a bit of a struggle. And I think we've gone through this Andy Murray pattern, haven't we, of one win, one loss, move on to the next tournament. So for him to put a string of wins together, get to the final, will be very, very pleasing for British fans. Yes, there is some worry and some doubt around his body, and again, I think it's sad in the sense it's a reminder of his fragility now. Yes, it's amazing he's playing with a metal hip, but there is still obviously any sort of concern with a trainer coming out. You do worry. He is 35 years old. He's not a spring chicken anymore. So that's a slight concern. But getting to the final, absolutely fantastic. And to come up, Kim, against Matteo Berrettini, another player who has been injured and not played since the Indian Wells, has had surgery of his own. For him also to get to the final, he probably was maybe a little bit surprised as well.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't seen him in about 3 months, so welcome back onto the tour, and what a way to come back onto the tour, straight to a title. And
it's like he never left.
It's like he just picked up his form from the grass, last season, like Queen's champion, Wimbledon finalist. I think he's won events on the grass in Europe before as well, I think in 2019. So obviously this is, a surface he's very much at home on. Really, his serve is just cracking on this surface, and had a bit of a tough semi with Oscar Otter. And I was thinking Murray, I think, would have beaten anyone else in that bottom half of the draw. It's just Berrettini, I think, was the real challenge. If it had been, Sonego, Otter, I think I would have definitely gone for Andy to win those, given his form. But Berrettini, very, very difficult opponent. And, perhaps if Andy hadn't have had the hip issues, I would have loved to have seen how the third set maybe would have panned out. But Berrettini, very deserved winner. And I'm sure I'm sure the sponsors were delighted, because I think he wears Hugo Boss clothing, doesn't he? And this was the Boss Open. So I bet they were just like in dreamland with him winning.
Yeah, well, exactly. And I think it's interesting. I think with grass, I think we all know, I think with Berrettini, his weaknesses, particularly I think on the backhand side, but certainly on the grass courts, when you have a big booming serve and a big forehand, it really, I think, can mask any sort of weakness you have in other parts of your game. And I think we saw that this week. And it was just, for me, almost surprising how effortless it was for him to pick up a racket, get back out on court, first tournament back, and hey, you go and win a title. He, I think, only was broken twice en route to the finals. So it just shows you how well he's been serving throughout the week. And even though, Kim, he's just been back, we can't, he got to the Wimbledon final last year. He's going to be there or thereabouts, isn't he, again, assuming he can also keep injury-free going forward.
Yeah, for sure. I think, if he keeps this consistency on this surface up, he's shown that he's kind of picked up where he left off. And certainly, I mean, you've got to put him in the top 5 likely winners for Wimbledon, especially as, like you said, people like Tsitsipas, not so I don't want to say competent on the grass court, but
no Medvedev either.
Yeah, and obviously the Russian player's not there, so there's no Medvedev, no Rublev. So yeah, for sure, Berrettini coming into Wimbledon, defending those final points, although, he's going to lose them anyway. But just based on last year and his performance, yeah, he's definitely got to be up there. And perhaps, having not played for the last 3 months, he's a lot fresher than a lot of other people. So, obviously Nick Kyrgios as well, getting to the semis here. We know he has form on a grass court in the past. He's had some fun wins at Wimbledon. But yeah, bits of a disappointing incident during his match with Andy. He obviously he lost a game due to a penalty. Sort of his behaviour on the court, but he did kind of come out on social media afterwards to say that he was dealing with racial slurs from the crowd and had some really, really horrible comments. So I would hope that is being investigated. Obviously, if this is what happened, that is completely unacceptable. And yeah, it's just obviously not something that we want to see in tennis or in any sport or in life anywhere. So, he was kind of saying that was the reason for his retaliation and his behavior in this aspect, which, well, we know his behavior is like that a lot of the time, but it's obviously awful that this someone or people in the crowd were potentially saying these things.
Yeah, it's it's obviously a big shame, because I think watching it on TV, I don't think we were really understanding what was going on. So I think Kyrgios coming out and saying this, and yes, I think Stuttgart have gone and have announced that there's an inquiry and investigation into it. There will inevitably be people out there, I think, who will say to Nick Kyrgios, it's never your fault. And again, in this match, he put a really tough battle up against Murray in that first set, went to a tie break. But the longer it went on, you just felt the more and more likely Kyrgios was going to implode. I feel like we've seen it so often in his career. And I do think Andy Murray is one of those players who knows how to get under your skin, I think, particularly with some of his, shots in his locker. I'm thinking about particularly his single-handed backhand slice, which keeps so low. We know Nick Kyrgios, the player, doesn't really like to kind of get down low and bend his knees. And I just felt that Murray was frustrating Kyrgios. And, looking at it on the screen, it was like, I thought it was that frustration that ultimately, losing that first set led to him getting really frustrated and ultimately kind of conceding a game penalty. And he should be able to, I think, we've again spoken about this in the past around, he should be able to kind of deal with these moments better. These moments of adversity where, yeah, he's playing really well and he's got a great serve, but he loses the first set and that's his match done for the day. But certainly this coming to light around potentially racial slurs from the crowd, I don't feel like this is an adversity that he should be having to overcome. This should just not be existing in the first place. So I hope Stuttgart do look into it and we can get to the kind of the bottom of this matter, because it's not a nice thing to hear about. And particularly for tennis, such a global game, we want to make it feel as inclusive as possible. And it's just not nice hearing these sorts of comments come out. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how that looks and kind of develops. But yeah, for Nick Kyrgios, good tournament, getting to the semi-finals, but bit disappointing in the way it ended.
And let's move across to the Netherlands now from Germany, Joel, because we had the Libema Open take place for the men and the women. I'm saying Libema Open because that's a lot easier to say than Hertogenbosch. Dutch listeners, please let us know. The S and the hyphen before the apostrophe always really confuses me.
I feel like they've deliberately made the tournament name a lot easier to say, so we don't have to refer to it by its location.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's have really pronounceable. I can't even say the word pronounceable. I was going to say, let's have tournament sponsors that are easy to pronounce. There we go. Right. Where was I? Yeah. Dutch listeners, though, will be absolutely delighted with the result, because Dutch Wildcard, ranked 205 in the world, Tim van Rijthoven, has had the most remarkable week of his career, storming to victory in the final today against soon to be world number one as of tomorrow, Daniil Medvedev. Straight set, 6-4, 6-1, just over an hour. He's beaten Felix Auger-Aliassime this week. He's beaten Taylor Fritz as well. Where has this come from, Joel? Dutch tennis probably would have thought, Botic van der Zandschulp, but not really an awful lot beyond that. And this guy's just come from nowhere and won a title.
I know.
Brilliant.
It's unbelievable. It's like the Dutch Peter Colt Wimbledon story in real life. In all honesty, he is the first Dutchman to win this event since Sheng Schalken back in 2003. So it's something that doesn't happen very often, and you don't often hear of wildcards coming into a tournament and then going all the way through to win the title. The fact that he did it against the top 3 seeds as well, he absolutely did not have an easy route to the final. And he would have coming into that match, I think, with Medvedev, with lots of confidence, particularly given he beat Auger-Aliassime in a last set tiebreak in the semi-final. But you think about the lack of experience this guy has compared to someone like Daniil Medvedev, who's been in a US Open final, who's won a US Open, and this guy, he's not even won a match on the ATP Tour. I think he's won one Davis Cup match. I think this is his second main draw ATP event. I mean, it's just amazing. It is genuinely a real fairy tale story. And, the fact that he wasn't, I think, overcome with any sort of nerves and just played his tennis, particularly in front of his home crowd as well, another extra pressure to deal with, was really, really impressive. And Medvedev, although he would have been happy to get to the final, again, he just did not have an answer to what was on the other side of the net. And I'm not saying this is a theme with Daniil Medvedev's losses at the moment, but he had that loss against Marin Cilic, who again played some really inspired tennis and didn't really know what to do. And I was looking at the highlights to this final, and again, Tim van Rijthoven, I thought, played very, very inspired tennis. And again, Medvedev didn't really have an answer.
Yeah, and we talk about the inexperience of Tim van Rijthoven. That previous time in an ATP Tour level event was back in 2016. So, not even recently. He hasn't even won a challenger event. He's he's incredibly inexperienced, really. And it's just all the more remarkable, really. But because of this win, he moves actually up almost 100 places in the rankings. He's going to be 106 in the world. He's never played a Grand Slam before now, but I'm hoping that he'll be able to get into Wimbledon.
Surely he'll get a wild card. Surely you'd give him a wild card.
I would. Let's hope so.
Main draw wild card or quali's wild card?
I would give him main draw, to be honest.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they've already earmarked their wild cards, but I mean, actually, though, he may get in automatically, because if you take out Russian players and Belarusian players, thinking he's 106 in the draw in the rankings. Well, I don't know. He may get in anyway, but we'll have to wait and see. I would hope that tournaments are going to be giving him some more opportunities sometime soon. But yeah, he's the lowest ranked winner of an ATP title this year. I think last year we had one of the Cerandolos winning, and they were sort of, I think at the time it was Juan Manuel Cerundolo winning, and he was 300 odd in the world. So, it has been known, but it doesn't happen very frequently. It is kind of once in a blue moon, and it is a fairy tale story. It's very Peter Colt-esque. And I just say, I saw him in Surbiton last week, Joel.
Yeah,
in qualifying, and he lost to that Finnish guy that ended up getting to the semis, I think. So there was nothing that I could see in Surbiton that would have told me a week later he'd be beating Daniil Medvedev and winning his first title.
Well, a lot of people, I mean, Andy Murray lost in Surbiton and did really, really well this week on the tour. And Tim van Rijthoven also, very similar story. But he just played very, very well. From what I've seen of his game, he has big serve, big forehand, and it was really, really working well for him throughout the whole week. And I think he just grew in confidence, I think, throughout, given the sorts of players he was coming up against. Because although I think Medvedev didn't face a seeded player through to the final, the fact that Van Rijthoven had to face Taylor Fritz, the 3rd seed, and then Auger-Aliassime, the 2nd seed in the semi-final. I mean, that match against Auger-Aliassime, which he won on a 3rd set tiebreak, was really impressive, given he lost that 2nd set 6-1, and I thought that was the end of the comeback story. I thought, Auger-Aliassime will be able to kind of get this done now, but he just bounced back, and he had lots of breakpoint opportunities in that 3rd set. And although he wasn't able to take them, he didn't let that get him down. And when it came to that match tiebreak at the end of the end of that third set, he was ready to seize his moment. So really, really impressive. Does it warrant a Wimbledon main draw wildcard if he doesn't get in on automatic entry? I would definitely think so. I mean, title winner, you've beaten the world number one from tomorrow. I think that absolutely warrants being in the main draw. Everyone is going to be talking about him for the next few weeks. So certainly I would be, making the most of that. And great week for him.
Yeah, I think for me, the most impressive thing was just the final itself. You know, he just didn't show any sort of nerves. And yeah, the second set, he went 5-love up and served it out to love. I mean, it's just, I suppose he had nothing to lose. He just thought, I'm going to go for it. But
maybe he watched Peter Colt as part of his training in the build-up.
He
get
called
some more
Paul Bettini
inspiration.
up. Yeah.
but Kim, there was a silver lining for Daniel Medvedev because he did beat two French players on the route to the final. He beat Gilles Simon and he beat Mannarino as well in the semis, because I didn't realize this, but there is this thing called the Daniel Medvedev, the French curse, because his record against Frenchmen is terrible. He's lost more matches against French players than won. Everyone says whenever he comes up against a French player that Daniel Medvedev is inevitably going to lose. But yeah, he came through against Simon and Mannarino. So his record now against French players is 118, lost 22. So it's still in the negative. But for some reason, when Medvedev comes up against a player of the French nationality, it's just a bit of a hoodoo on him.
It's strange that, because, he speaks, I think, French fluently. He's lived in France for many years. I think he still lives there now. So I don't know, maybe he's just in complete awe of them or something.
I mean, they're not even that highly ranked anymore. I mean, yes, we've got like Gael Monfils still knocking about.
No.
But,
Hugo Gaston. Yeah, there's not that many.
Yeah.
There's not too many French up at the top, are there, anymore? That sort of generation's kind of gone a little bit. But I mean, Medvedev probably won't be too gutted at this result, because, it's, although he would obviously have wanted to have won the title, he's still going to be world number one from tomorrow.
True.
And, he's not allowed to play Wimbledon. So it's not like he needs to be fine-tuning his grass court game in advance of the Grand Slam, which, it seems quite, I don't know, strange and ironic. And if we go on to the women's final at the Libema Open, we had two players there who will not be at Wimbledon. We had, Ekaterina Alexandrova of Russia and Aryna Sabalenka of Belarus. And, Alexandrova came out on top in this one, 7-5, 6-love. And you think, fantastic, week for her, picking up, I think, her second career title. But I don't know, for me, it's kind of like, but I would have liked to have seen what she could have done at Wimbledon, but we won't know now, will we?
Yeah.
So that's, for me, this whole kind of ban on certain players, it does detract a little bit from what they're doing in these warm-up events as well. Well, I say warm-up events, obviously they're not just warm-up events, but I hope you know what I mean.
For what? For the Russian players, they're warming up for
a holiday for 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, it was a really good win for Alexandrova. I really love. You don't get a lot of them. I just love a mixed 250 event like they have at Hertogenbosch with the men and women both there. Absolutely great. But Alexandrova winning in the final against Sabalenka, 7-5, 6-love. Alexandrova was just going through the draw like nobody's business. She beat Kalinina 6-4, 6-2, then McNally 6-love, 6-1, and then perhaps for me the most impressive before getting to the final against Kudermetova, who had a very good run at the French Open, 6-3, 6-1, and she just continued that through to the final against Sabalenka. I think she won the last 9 games. Sabalenka again didn't really have an answer for it. She was just trying to hit powerfully from the baseline, but just felt that Alexandrova, she's got a very high, I think, tennis IQ and sort of knew what to do when sort of faced with that level of power and that level of aggression. And I think you particularly saw that with how she handled or even demolished, to be honest, Sabalenka's serve, because she was hitting return winners off the Sabalenka first serve. She wasn't getting many free points. And I think her second serve as well for Sabalenka, she was only serving at 22%. So Alexandrova really, I think, played a really smart tactical game, and that really started, I think, with how she dismantled the Sabalenka serve throughout the match.
Yeah, and she loves playing playing the faster courts, doesn't she? I think her first title came on a hard court back in 2020, Shenzhen, I think. So it's been a while since she's been at the top of the top of the rostrum, if you like. But I think that's what it's a shame, because if she's kind of having a great week, her form's peaking, you'd like to see that carry on and potentially see what she can do at a slam, because she's not one of those players that has ever gone deep at a slam. I think her best result is the third round. So she really needs, I think, that kind of big breakthrough. She's up at about 30 in the world, but I don't know. Do you see her making inroads? Sort of, could she be a top 10 player if she continues to play like this? You'd have to think so.
Yeah, I think she's a very consistent player, and as you said, she does, I think, like those faster, speedier surfaces, and that makes her, for me, kind of a threat throughout the majority, of the season, particularly in the second half of the season. Yes, it is a shame she will not be at Wimbledon, but I certainly think the way she is able to handle aggression and power really kind of makes her well suited, I think, to rising up the rankings and dealing with these these power players on court. And I do think we think of her more as like a tour level player, very consistent tour level player, and maybe she needs a breakout moment at a Grand Slam. I do think a lot of the women in the locker room at Wimbledon will be breathing a sigh of relief that Alexandrova won't be at Wimbledon because of the level she was showing in this tournament. I mean, just talking about Sabalenka as well, Kim, I mean, she was the top seed, and I think we've seen Sabalenka, I feel, in this position over the last few months where she's been the top seed, and she's not really handled it particularly well, going out in the first round or just winning one match and then going out very early on in the tournament. So it was nice, I think, to see her sort of just live up to being the top seed and getting through to the final, because I do think she will also feel like she had a point to prove, in the sense of she's not obviously going to be at Wimbledon either. So for her to kind of come through and just sort of, I think, just actually reach the level of expectation that is put upon her by her ranking and her seed, I think that's very, very, very encouraging, given, I think, as I said a few months ago, I feel like she was in this position and not really living up to where her seeding was dictating.
Yeah, I think getting to the final will be obviously a positive. You're given, I think, just generally, like you said, the lack of form this season and the sort of poor results. So perhaps, as we go on to, for her, for the summer hard courts, the US Open swing, she can kind of keep this form and, take it from there. But fantastic for Alexandrova. Her second career title. So, I'm sure she's over the moon and enjoying that, even if she won't be able to, play the big one in a few weeks' time. This is her Wimbledon victory. Yeah. Let's move on to home soil now, Joel, because we had the Nottingham Open as well. So we've got, this is a WTA event, but also there's an ATP Challenger, which Dan Evans has won. So great for Dan Evans. I didn't know that he would be playing the Challenger. I thought, he doesn't need to play Challengers anymore.
What, you weren't watching his semi-final against Jack Sock?
I did not, Joel. I was otherwise occupied. But, anyway, I'm glad he's obviously come back. He's won this, tournament before. He's come back, getting some fantastic grass court practice in before Queen's. So good on Dan Evans. Nice for him to claim a title on home soil. And, let's hope he can do well at Queen's. But for the ladies, we had an interesting final between Beatriz Haddad Maia of Brazil and Alison Risk of the United States. Now, we very, very much know that Alison Risk is a bit of a grass court specialist. I was absolutely...
Grass court legend.
A legend, yeah. I was envisaging her getting to the final. I'm not going to lie. I thought as soon as I saw her name in the draw, she's got to be done. But she lost though in the final to Haddad Maia, 6-4, 1-6, 6-3. Haddad Maia is only the second Brazilian female player in the Open era to win a title on grass. The other being Maria Bueno, who was a multiple Wimbledon champion, I think, won the title in Eastbourne in 1968. So for Brazilian tennis on grass courts, this is a very significant day, I suppose.
Yeah, a very historic occasion. You don't really associate Brazilian players with grass courts. So for her to get to the final, beat Maria Sakkari along the way as well, the top seed, very, very impressive. And then to come up against a grass court specialist like Alison Risk and go on and win the trophy, particularly when you had a second set blip, losing that second set 6-1 was very, very good. I mean, I watched this live, and in that first set, Haddad Maia, she was just hitting very, very powerfully from the baseline. You felt like she was climbing all over Alison Risk's serve. I think she got to deuce on the first 3 Risk service games, and I really feel like that was the platform that she was laying in terms of giving herself those opportunities to break Risk. And I never felt like she was out of the match, in the sense of I felt like she had the opportunity kind of to break Risk serve whenever she wanted. And she was very, very composed at the end, I think, to just kind of see it out and make sure she was able to just kind of get it done. But yeah, great win for her. Another player I think players won't be wanting to facing, in the draw kind of going forward, because she's definitely a player that, you might underestimate, given she's from South America, and you think, oh yeah, you might be good on the clay or whatever, but can you do it on the hard court, on the grass courts in the UK? But with this result, certainly she can, and yeah, very, very impressive from her.
Yeah, especially that second set, Risk, I think, went 5-love up and, sort of claimed that set very, very quickly. Like really good set from Risk. But, Haddad Maia was obviously able to refocus, and she was broken at the start of that third set, but broke straight back, and then, was able to break towards the end of the set. And it's her first WTA title. So, we wish her well. She's also in the doubles final, Joel. I think she's won the first set. She's a set and a breakup as we're recording this, playing with Zhang of China. So obviously in just very good form generally this week. I didn't know that she had been she had a doping suspension. This is her first final after coming back onto the tour following that. I don't remember that being in the news, but maybe I completely forgot. I think I was just looking into it earlier, just, out of interest, and I think it was she said some contaminated substance supplements that had certain things in that obviously were deemed as against the allowed list, but we don't know. She was banned, but she's back now. So yeah, I just I wasn't aware of that. I know we had the there have been a few similar to that where it's been in the news, but this was obviously one that passed me by anyway.
And we had obviously British interests as well. Best result from Brits was Harriet Dart. She had a great win against Camilla Giorgi in the second round. She made her first quarter-final at a WTA Tour level event. Actually took a set off Alison Risk in that quarter-final, but wasn't able to kind of see it through. But yeah, nice win against Giorgi. She saved multiple match points, won it in the third set tiebreak. Really, really good from her. Not so good though, Kim, from Emma Raducanu, who took a wild card, announced that she was going to play Nottingham, came in as the second seed, had Goljevic in the first round, very tough opponent. We know she got to the quarters at Wimbledon last year. And then all of a sudden, after 7 games, she retired and went off court, put Wimbledon in doubt. She's allayed those fears post that match, but yeah, all a bit strange, but also all a bit too familiar.
Yeah, yet another sort of injury concern. This one, she didn't last particularly long, 4-3 down, and then retired. So yeah, she's been posting on kind of Instagram that she's doing everything that she can to be at Wimbledon, and obviously we hope that she can be there. But I feel like it's safe to just have zero expectations of what she's able to do, given her.
We have to.
Given her physical, form as much as anything. So, well,
it just seems very strange. It just seems very strange that she would announce herself for Nottingham, and she would have obviously felt, I'm assuming, that she was 100%. Her body was ready, to go back onto the tour. So for all of a sudden, then to something to happen to her body in those 7 games, just feels very, very strange in terms of, did that thing happen in that moment, or did she go in knowing she wasn't going to be 100%, but there were other things at play? Again, people talking about whether she felt the pressure to play from either sponsors or being there for the British crowd. I don't know, but it was just all very. It was just all very, I think, a little bit disheartening to see, but a bit of a I feel like a bit of a strange one in terms of her experience of, this is her first season as US Open champion on the grass courts, and it's not the way you would have wanted to start.
I would hope that she's not feeling too much pressure from sponsors to the extent that she puts her own health second. But, I can understand that you want to fulfill your obligations. You don't want to let people down. And, I find that quite stressful in my life. I feel like I don't want to let people down. I've got, I need to go to things that are scheduled, and I can understand if that causes a certain amount of, conflict with various competing factors. So I hope that the decisions that she's making are the right ones for her. But we'll have to see in the next few weeks if she's going to be able to play Wimbledon or not. I mean, I'm sure we'll know 2 weeks to this day, as it will be the eve of the championships. And let's hope she'll be in the draw. Let's take a quick break now, Joel. But do join us in the second half. We'll be talking about Glasgow being announced as the host for the Billie Jean King Cup finals, the ATP's future plans for their Masters events, and also all the upcoming draws in Queens, Halle, and Berlin. So do not go anywhere. Welcome back to Tennis Weekly with Joel and Kim, sponsored by downloadtennis.com. And now we're going to move on to, I think, a par for the courts before we get on to the news and other bits and bobs. Joel, I believe you've got a par for the courts for me and the listeners.
The courts
again.
For you and the listeners, exactly that. And I've been getting in the mood. I've been getting into grass court season vibes, and particularly with Queens coming up, Kim, I've got a question for you and our listeners that is to do with the hallowed turf of the Queen's Championships.
Oh, does it involve Feliciano Lopez?
It may or may not involve Feliciano Lopez. So my question for you and our listeners is this: there have been 9 winners of the Queen's Championships since the year 2000 in the singles event. And I would like you to name me as many of those 9 individuals who have lifted the trophy as a champion.
Oh, okay.
And
right, okay.
I am going to set the par score for this one. And I always feel like I'm too nice to you, and I set it at like sort of a middling 50% sort of score. But I'm going to go quite high here, and I'm going to say 7 out of 9.
Okay, I think that's doable. Yeah, I think I can definitely get that.
I'm giving you no lives either. I feel like I give you lives and
fair.
You don't need them. And yeah, so I'm not giving you any sort of lives. So if you give me some rogue answer to begin with and it's the wrong answer, then you've lost.
I mean, I'm more confident on this because it's in the UK. It's an event I've been to a lot. If it was some random tournament, elsewhere, I would be like less confident.
I was considering Surbiton Trophy winners, but I decided against it.
Okay, right. So since the year 2000, just to clarify. Okay, right. Let's commence. I'm gonna go sort of chronologically, but also maybe not. So anyway, let's start with Matteo Berrettini last year.
Correct. Yes, defeated Cam Norrie in the final.
I've already forgotten who won the year before that, although I suppose it would have been cancelled. Feliciano Lopez has definitely won it. I knew he would come up in this.
Correct. Yes, he is a 2-time champion, won in 2017 and 2019. You are correct. There was no tournament held in 2020.
Rafa Nadal has won it in 2008.
Correct.
Most enjoyable.
Do you know who he beat in the final?
I do. It's Novak Djokovic. Something like 7-5 something, 7-5, 6-4 maybe. Anyway,
7-6, 7-5. Very close.
Oh, okay. I remember that first set. I'm sure Djokovic went like 4-love up potentially. Anyway, right. Listeners don't need to know my trying to remember random score lines. Andy Murray has obviously won it several times as well.
Correct. Yes, he is on the list. So yeah, he's won it quite a few times. Just for bonus points, can you name me any of his finalists he's beaten?
He beat Tsonga one year.
Yes. I think that was on a Monday final, I think.
It was, yeah, because of rain.
Yeah.
He's beaten Raonic, maybe? I know that was a
Yes.
Wimbledon final, but maybe it was
Yeah.
a Queen's final as well. Cilic?
Yeah, he's beaten
Lopez?
James Blake as well. Yeah. So yeah, he's been a few players. There was a player you may have mentioned also might be a former champion.
Oh yeah, well, Cilic won. He won that awful one with Nalbandian
Yes.
kicking
Very
the
good.
line
Very
judge.
good. Yes, Marin Cilic is a correct answer. So I think that is that 5? So it's Berrettini, Lopez, Cilic, Murray, and Nadal.
I'm going to go a bit further back now. Andy Roddick, he won it many times. That was when I first started getting into tennis. It was he was pretty much dominating.
Correct. Yes, Andy Roddick, a 3-time champion. He won 3 on the bounce, 2003, 2004, 2005. So that's 6, Kim. So you need 1 more for par for the courts.
The other player that dominated around that time, I'm sure for a time it was either him or Roddick that was winning it, was Leighton Hewitt.
Leighton Hewitt?
Yeah, he's also a multiple champion there, I believe.
Correct. Yes.
Yes.
Leighton Hewitt is right. You have achieved par for the courts. Yeah, he won it also. He won it 4 times, actually. Also 3 on the bounce. 2000, 2001, 2002. I was there for one of those He had 2 finals against Tim Henman, and I was there for one of them when he beat them, when it was all the branding was all red, and it was the Stella Artois championships. So so there are 2 players you haven't mentioned. Have you got any other guesses?
Yeah, so I've got one I think is right, and I'm not sure about the other player because he did used to play it, but I don't know if he's actually ever won it. I want to say Grigor Dimitrov and Novak Djokovic.
One of those is correct. Grigor Dimitrov is right. 2014 defeated Feliciano Lopez. The final player that you have not got, and listeners, very well done if you've got this player. This player actually is in the main draw for this year's tournament. Won it back in 2010 in an All-American final. Defeated Mardy Fish, Sam Querrey.
Sam Querrey, yes, of course. He did win it, didn't he?
Yes, and he qualified today. So yeah, so Sam Querrey was your final person. So we had Hewitt, Roddick, Nadal, Murray, Querrey, Cilic, Dimitrov, Lopez, and Matteo Berrettini.
Oh, I think 8 out of 9 was pretty decent. And yeah, I'm sure a lot of our British listeners probably did very well on that as well. I'm sure they won't be as easy as that next time round, will they? But no, I do like a bit of Queens, although a bit annoying. I normally like to go for qualifying, but they closed it off to the general public this year for various
we
reasons.
were all ready, Kim. We had the suntan cream, we had our hats, we were all ready to go for today to go watch some of the final qualifying round, but unfortunately wasn't open to the public, which felt a bit annoying.
Yeah, I think I feel like Queens has a very exclusive vibe, doesn't it? And I don't think blocking it off for qualifying to the public is particularly helpful. But there we go. Let's move on to the passing shot mailbag because we've got a question from Jill via email. So thanks, Jill, for getting in touch. Jill has asked, after Rafa Nadal has lifted his 14th French Open trophy, how would you commemorate the Spaniard's achievements at Roland Garros once he decides to hang up his racket and retire? She said, would you possibly name the trophy after him? Would you give a national holiday? Would you rename Philippe Chatrier? So, I mean, good suggestions. Personally, I'm loving the idea of a national holiday, but would that be all over the world, perhaps?
No, absolutely not.
Well,
a Spanish national holiday.
Oh, okay.
Not an international holiday.
I think it should be an international holiday.
I think, it's interesting because I almost feel like a statue would do him justice.
There's already a statue.
Is there? Well, exactly.
Well, there you go. So we need something more than a statue.
And he's got a court. He's got a court named after him in Barcelona.
Barcelona.
Isn't it? Yeah. I was looking at whether they would rename Philippe Chatrier. I mean, that was only named Philippe Chatrier in 2001. So it's only been that for 20 years. It feels quite new. So I feel that would be quite tricky. but I don't know. I do think it warrants something more, and maybe the trophy could be named after him at some point. It just, that's where I feel like his name is most synonymous. Just seeing Rafa Nadal, Rafa Nadal, Rafa Nadal, Rafa Nadal. So I wonder if in the future the trophy could have Rafa Nadal inserted into it as its name, because that's what I identify him most synonymously with.
Yeah, because it's the Coupe de Mousquetaires, I think, is the name of the trophy, but it could be renamed something like the Rafa Nadal Coupe de Mousquetaire, or maybe like one of the boulevards they have on the site could be like Rue de Nadal or something. I'm sure there's plenty of things they could do. Or maybe like the media center or something could be, I don't know, they could have other sort of facilities named after him. I think trophy would be sort of the most suitable though, actually. Or just have another statue. Just have statues all over the place.
Have 14 statues.
Yeah. And an 14 days of international holiday. We wish, yeah. No, but great question, Jill. I hope that they'll do something to commemorate him. I know they already have, but in time. But maybe he'll win some more. Who knows? I mean, 14 is just absolutely bombastic. So anyway, let's discuss some of the news from the last week of tennis, Joel. Good news for Great Britain and British tennis fans. We've been given the Billie Jean King Cup finals this year. They will be taking place in Glasgow at the Emirates Arena between the 8th and 13th of November. And because we are hosting, it means that Great Britain will get a wild card into the finals, giving us the chance to play them, as we were defeated by the Czech Republic in April, meaning, we weren't going to be at these finals.
Bizarre.
But obviously now we are.
Bizarre.
So
bizarre. It just feels really weird. I mean, to have lost in a qualifier and then almost it always feels like we're just sneaking in through the back door. We're
buying our place.
Yeah,
we've
bought our way into the final. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, it's all a bit of a, I think a shambles. Maybe not a shambles as much, but it's certainly been, I think, very tricky to, find a host. It was meant to be Budapest, and there was, a multi-million, dollar contract, and it fell through. And with these events, you always hope that they're, set in stone for X number of years, and you're not just sort of having to make it up on the fly as each season kind of comes around. And I think that's the feeling we're sort of in, or been in, the last kind of couple of years, and particularly with the Billie Jean King Cup finals and where it's held. So I mean, it's crazy the fact that this is in November and it's only just been announced in June. And although, yeah, it is great for GB to be there, and it would be great to see our team up against the elite teams of the world. I'm really interested and excited to see how that plays out. But I think from logistics and practicality point of view, it's very strange that we lost to the Czech Republic, and we could face them again in the finals later on in the year.
Yeah, and we've got also some group stages in Glasgow for the Davis Cup in September. So if you're in Glasgow, got lots of tennis happening. And then, also the Laver Cup in London. So yeah, quite a few events going on in the latter part of the year for the UK and tennis fans, which is good. And we'll have to see how Team GB make the most of being given this wild card. On the news of, tournaments and locations and timeframes as well, we've got the ATP, who announced this year that some of the Masters 1000 events, Madrid, Rome and Shanghai, from next year will become longer events. So they will become similar to Miami and Indian Wells, and they will be extended in terms of the time frame. So I think instead of 8-day events, there'll be 12-day events, and they'll have larger draws. So that's going to happen from next year for those 3 events. And then from 2025, the Cincinnati and the Canadian Open, which alternates between Montreal and Toronto, that will also increase to become longer, larger events. What do you make of this decision? Do you think it's a good one. Make more of an event of these Masters, make them a bit more significant, have more players there able to play and participate.
Do you know, I understand it in some parts of the year. Certainly I felt with Madrid and Rome, I think that's a smart move, because it did feel very compacted. Whenever they are played, back to back over the last, however many seasons it's been. I thought it was interesting that Gaudenzi, the head of the ATP, he said he ultimately wants to create 180 days of what he called premium product tennis. And I feel like he obviously thinks that the Masters events, that is a premium product. And at the moment, they're not being utilized or stretched as much as potentially they could be. And I think this is where this is coming about in terms of, stretching them out. But, that is going to obviously have implications elsewhere. And I get that, you want to show the best of tennis, show the best of men's tennis. And yeah, this will create benefits for, players in the sense of there'll be bigger draws. So there'll be more opportunities to get ranking points. The prize money at these Masters events are obviously higher as well. So there are benefits from that perspective, but at the same time, I do think it's a balancing act in terms of what happens to other lower level tournaments like 500s and 250s, which traditionally are played the week after Masters events end, and it feels like they might be squeezed out if you stretch these Masters 1000 events out. And what does that say about opening up tennis to lots of different places around the world when you're just going to focus on the prestige and the history of events that have just been kind of been around for what feels like forever. So I do think there needs to be some flexibility and having those, still have those spots for those 250s, because it sounds like there's still a bit of concern about, yes, this all sounds great in principle, but when it comes to implementation, those 250 events, they still have a big role to play. And I think for those lower ranked players who, they're probably going to be thinking, yeah, that's great being in a Masters draw, but ultimately there's probably much more chance of me actually winning a title in those smaller 250 events. So I still want those to be present, so I have my shot at creating moments that can define my career versus going out in round 2 or round 3 at the Shanghai Masters or whatever.
Yeah, it depends if by warrant of increasing the the size of these Masters events, if that's going to squeeze reduce the number of 250s. Like, we wouldn't want it to actually reduce opportunities for lower ranked players. I mean, I guess it depends what they would rather play. Perhaps I don't know if they've surveyed players on this, or whether this will be like doing it for a trial year to see how it works in reality. But yeah, I certainly think it makes sense, I have to say. And I think also, he said about adding a Masters on grass long term. I think that certainly is justified.
We've
a long
been
time
speaking
coming.
about this forever. I feel like we've been speaking about this forever.
Yeah. I mean, I think out of all the things that tennis has done of late, I sort of agree with this more than some of the other decisions. So we'll have to see how it goes.
Do you think, though, seven Masters events, all of them are 2 weeks long? Do you think that's a bit much, or do you think the tour schedule warrants it?
I think I guess they want more tournaments where all the top players are going to be there. Because even with some of the some of the Masters that we see now, like, some top players do withdraw, but I guess if they're going to be over a longer period of time, for the early rounds they get that rest day. But then if the draw is bigger, they have to play one extra match than normal. So is it really going to be that much of a difference? Is it really going to be that much more premium than we have already? I don't know. I guess that Monte Carlo is not going to become a big one. They just wouldn't have the capacity. It's a very small site. So I guess that has to remain as a small one. I hope they don't get rid of that, because I'd be gutted if they got rid of the Monte Carlo Masters. So as long as they don't fiddle around with that one, I'm down with the rest of the plan. But perhaps Queens will become a Masters. Let's, where would they have this Masters on grass? Perhaps Queens will be putting their name forward. Although again, it is quite a small site. So perhaps they wouldn't fit the bill. Let's look ahead at Queens though, because we've got that coming up. Starting tomorrow for the main draw action. Casper Ruud is the top seed, so he'll be starting out on the clay after his French Open final. Obviously, Andy Murray hopefully will be in the draw, and if he is playing, he would open up against Sonego. Dan Evans has got a tough first round with Matteo Berrettini. And also, Norrie has got former champion Dimitrov first round. So not easy for British players. Brody's got Cilic, who obviously was playing very well at the French as well. Jack Draper's up against Taylor Fritz. Ryan Peniston's got Ruud.
I think that's winnable.
Well, given what we saw Draper do last year, beating Sinner and going a few rounds deep. Certainly, I think a lot of, all of those matches are technically winnable for the British players, and let's hope we do get some wins out of them.
Yeah, I'm also looking forward to France's Tiafoe versus Stan Wawrinka in the first round. I think that could be quite a fun match. But it's an interesting draw. I think Berrettini, given what he's done in Stuttgart, will be, and also obviously as defending champion as well, I think will be one of the favourites for it. It'll be interesting to see how Ruud adapts, I think, from clay to grass. Ryan Peniston, I watched in Surbiton, made the semi-finals. Made the quarterfinals. Has had pretty good grass court. Has had pretty good grass court results over the last few weeks. So I think that'll be a nice little tester for Casper Ruud. Marin Cilic, I think he could be an interesting one to watch given his previous form. As a previous winner at Queens. I mean, Kim, just on previous winners, there is no Feliciano Lopez in the draw. He lost in qualifying today against Rusevori in a final set tiebreak. I mean, I was a bit surprised that as a former champion, he did not get a wild card into this event. I felt that was a bit unfair on him not to get that.
I think that was such a grave injustice that he was not automatically given a wild card into the main draw. It's a shame. Obviously, he wasn't able to qualify. Earlier this week, I think he was out in Stuttgart or the Netherlands, and he lost to Bonzi straight set. So I guess there's not really much form to go on for him at the moment to justify a main draw wildcard. But given the fact that he's, a two-time former champion and, loves the grass of Queens normally, it is a shame. I wonder if maybe he'll come through as a potential lucky loser. I don't know. But
maybe
at
he
least
could replace Andy
he could
Murray.
replace Andy Murray.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I do enjoy seeing Andy Murray having a special exemption next to him on the draw seat as opposed to WC, which I feel like we've got used to over the last few months. So that's nice to see. But it's a really nice draw. Lots of familiar names and big players as well. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how all the Brits get on. We also have Halle, the ATP 500 event in Germany. Ugo Humbert is the defending champion who is in the draw. We also have the top seed, Daniel Medvedev, all the familiar faces, Stefanos Tsitsipas, Rublev's there, Hubert Hurkacz. Yeah, it's again it's a relatively stacked draw, I'd say. Quite a few top 10 players there. I feel like there's quite a few players there who we won't be unfortunately seeing at Wimbledon. But where have you got your eyes on this in the draw?
I think Kyrgios has got a decent draw actually. He would have Tsitsipas second round, but I think Kyrgios could beat him there. And Oscar Otte had a great week. Just gone making the semi-finals in Stuttgart. So, and obviously home soil in Germany, and we saw what he did against Andy Murray at Wimbledon last year. So, but I wouldn't be surprised if we had someone like Basilashvili come through and do well. I mean, I know he didn't this week, but he's sort of one of those players that can put a good week together.
You wouldn't want to be a tennis ball in a match between Basilashvili and Rublev, I feel.
No. Or maybe, gosh, it could go anywhere really. I doubt Humbert's going to defend his title. He hasn't been in great form. He's not even seeded at this event, so I think that'd be going some to defend it. But perhaps Felix will. He narrowly lost, didn't he, to Tim van Rijthoven? So perhaps he'll come through and get get a second title, Joel? I was debating before we started recording. I was like, has Felix won a title? I'm sure he did, but I just feel
Yes.
like he hasn't, won his second one. Like, and I just wouldn't want him to,
Yeah, we thought the floodgates were going to open,
yeah.
didn't we? But it's not really happened just yet. But he's still, I think, he's almost arguably, I think, made more strides at Grand Slams than on the tour events, which for me almost is a positive sign in the sense I feel like that's where he's got star quality, because he can perform on that sort of ultimate stage at the Grand Slams. I mean, we've also, Kim, got the Berlin event, the WTA 500 out in Germany. I mean, this draw, I think the build up to it was more about who's not playing than who is playing, because we had a lot of big name withdrawals. We had Swiatek withdraw, Osaka withdraw, Badosa withdraw, Kontaveit and Pegula as well. So it was a bit unfortunate.
Half the top 10 withdrawing.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, imagine if they were in for this as a 500 event, it would have been completely stacked. But unfortunately, they're not in. But we do have Ons Jabeur as the top seed. I mean, interestingly, Kim, she's got Karolina Muchova in the first round. That feels very, very tough. I think the last we saw of Muchova was quite sad. We saw her, I think, retire, I think, to Aryna Sabalenka at the French Open. So it's glad to see her be ready for the grass court season. But yeah, that's a tough opener, I think, for Jabeur.
Yeah, and Samsonova is the defending champion. I remember last year when she sort of won this kind of from nowhere, and she's become a bit more of a regular feature on the tour now. We know what she's all about. But yeah, she'll be hoping to potentially defend her title. Yeah, looking at the draw, there's lots of players here that will not be at Wimbledon. Alexandrova, Kudermetova's got Sabalenka first round. See, that could go either way from the word go. But yeah, Coco Gauff also in action here. So transitioning onto the grass after the French Open final. Be interesting to see what she can do. First time on grass this season. And Karolina Pliskova as well. Wimbledon finalist from last year. Fully expect her to. She's got Kanepi first round. I mean, that can go anyway.
Well,
really,
if that was at a Grand Slam, I would have backed Kanepi. But on the tour, I'm backing Pliskova in that one.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be making any bets on this this event, I have to say. But we've also got the WTA 250 in Birmingham as well. So for British fans who are maybe going to Birmingham, you've got top seed Jelena Ostapenko and second seed Simona Halep. So yeah, and obviously the likes of Alison Risk, Camilla Giorgi, Sorana Castella, Kvitova, Zheng Shui.
Haddad Maia, Kvitova,
yeah.
First round.
Oh, that's
that is not that's not an easy one, is it, for Kvitova? Nice also to have Simona Halep there. Wimbledon champion in Birmingham. Great to see. But yeah, I think she's in the harder half of the draw. She's got Alison Risk also in this half. Camilla Giorgi, Haddad Maia, Kvitova. Feel like, this half is a little bit tougher than the top half, which has quite a few qualifiers. Ostapenko, I don't know what to expect. She has performed well on grass in the past, but it's going to be I think it's again quite open, but certainly I'm looking at that bottom half. Potentially they're going to be battle ready, I think, for the final if they're coming through that.
Yeah, Harriet Dart's got a wild card. She's got Camilla Osorio first round. So winner of that, may play Halep, which would be fun. So let's hope that Dart gets a win under her belt, and hopefully Caroline Garcia will get a win or two.
Well, you said to me last week she won one match, and you said on the singles tour, and you said to me, Caroline Garcia is having a renaissance on the WTA tour, and I was like, Kim, I'll give you it. One win for Garcia. Yeah, I'll give you it.
I think she won 2 matches, actually.
Okay.
But I just thought, she's won the French Open. Now she's going to transfer that success over to the singles court, and the floodgates will open. But perhaps not. Perhaps they'll creak open rather than fly open. But we'll see about that one. But yeah, we'll be back next week to round up all of these events. As usual, here on Tennis Weekly, Joel.
Yes, listeners, I hope you've enjoyed listening to this latest Tennis Weekly talk catch-up. Remember to subscribe to us on whatever device you listen to us on. to stay up to date on the grass court season ahead. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all good podcasting platforms out there. You can also listen to us on the downloadtennis.com app. And if you like what you're hearing, then make sure to leave us a rating and comment on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
And you can follow us on social media. We are available on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Tennis Weekly Pod. So do share with us all your queries, comments, feedback, questions you've got for us throughout the week. And if you prefer, you can email us instead. We're on tennisweeklypod@gmail.com. And don't forget to check out our website as well, www.tennisweekly.co.uk.
And we will be back next Monday at Tennis Weekly HQ for another tour catch-up. So I hope you can join us for that. But in the meantime, it's goodbye from Kim.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. We'll see you again soon.